test. Do 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 do. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Man, I got a lot to talk about. I've been traveling, enjoying the summer. I hope you have too. And summer months are sometimes not very active, but not this summer. This summer, we've had a pretty good VIX, pretty good high elevated volatility. Crypto has been moving. And of course, the crypto I want to talk about today in particular is talk about what happened this weekend, Monero. Of course, you know, that's my favorite cryptocurrency because it's the only thing that I think really matters when it comes to private money. But some people disagree. Some people want scarcity. But yeah, let's talk about what happened and what it means. It's opened my eyes to some things as well. Qubic is the nefarious, dastardly deed doer to this, but I've actually come to like look and appreciate what they're trying to do, actually. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to do a little learn by teaching as well. Need to also talk about Bitcoin MicroStrategy, Ethereum, of course, as it comes up on its major highs, and the stocks that have popped up on my radar for the last few weeks, thanks to actually some people sending me DMs asking me about them. So I'm really happy to have feedback from people, generate opportunities. That's why I do these live streams. So hang out, and we'll be right back after music while people come in, and we'll talk about this and learn. Be right back. All right. I do not have my mic muted to start out. That's always very important. All right. So I think the format today, I'm going to talk about the topic at hand, which is Monero. I'm going to use a lot of Twitter links because that's what I was following yesterday. Yesterday was when all the fun stuff happened, but people have been talking about this, wondering about it for about a month now. What was going to happen? It was basically a takeover attempt, supposedly, of hashrate. And I'm going to try to explain this to people that may not be that uh, up to speed on cryptocurrency terms. Try to keep it nice and simple. Learn by teaching and all that kind of stuff. And then I want to talk a little bit about, Bitcoin, of course, because you can't talk about cryptocurrency without talking about Bitcoin. And what's going on in the other currencies that I look at. I mean, Bitcoin and Ethereum, big technical things happening as far as those go. But there's also been a lot of stocks that have come up on my radar, like I said, from people that watch the stream, hop on my Discord and stuff like that. And that's why I like to do this, because I can't look at every single stock. But idea generation is important. And some really good opportunities this year have come from people that watch my content and give me some ideas to look at. And if it's good, I'll take it. And I've done very well actually this year. So we'll catch up on that. So yeah, I got my notes and everything. All right. Where do we want to begin with this Monero? Oh, by the way, if you got symbols to look at, we will put them in the chat so we can look at in the last kind of half of the live stream. All right. So let me kind of get in. Let me get all my things set up for chat. All right. If you got questions, stop me. Ask questions. Ask questions. I love doing this, by the way. I love to teach. I really like to teach. That's why I do this. All right. So Monero. What is Monero? Okay. Monero is a cryptocurrency that is privacy focused. It's a layer 1. That means it's not built on another cryptocurrency. It's its own chain, and its focus is on decentralized privacy. I say it's private money. It's the best thing that we have going on as far as a layer 1 solution. I would steel man the argument of the Bitcoin maximalists that they can do it with Lightning Network, but it's a little more complicated. You have to set up a node. You have to trust your counterparty. But Monero just does everything. Now, Bitcoin, if you don't know, is mined, and it's mined by the power of computers. Everything's computers. Specifically now, Bitcoin is mined through ASICs. They are, I don't know the exact acronym, but processors that are deliberately designed to mine Bitcoin because of economics. People want to win. They want to make as much money as possible. Well, Monero, they can't do that. It uses a protocol called RandomX, and you can't only mine on CPUs, but it's probably the best to be mined on just standard CPUs like you have in your computer. The best one, actually, most efficient, cost-effective one, is a AMD Ryzen 5950X, I think, if that's true. But that's basically, people can do it with their home hardware, but you don't get very much. I actually did because I wanted to kind of do my civic duty to the Monero ecosystem. I wanted to look into mining myself. Essentially, if you have an AMD processor like the one, let me say what it is exactly. AMD. Okay, so Ryzen 5950X. Yeah, I was right. You can make about $8 to $9 a month if you have free electricity. So what's your recuperation rate? Well, that processor itself costs $300. So you don't need to do math to find out that it's like anytime. Just understand something about mining, guys. I've been doing this. I've been in crypto for like over a decade, and I've seen so many cycles of mining. It is always better to buy the coin outright than to try to mine. So many people get into this, like, oh, I want to mine it. There's some advantages. Like, you can get virgin coins, like if you're mining Bitcoin, that's non KYC, but know your customer. It's just yours. Doesn't have a track record. Doesn't have a history. But it's usually economically better just to buy it outright, or wait years for you to get paid back. But anyway, the idea of it being CPU mined is that you don't have these industrial scale mining operations going on. You have more of a decentralized, democratic mining system with processors alone. That's the idea of it. Well, that's what kind of came into the problems, or an Achilles heel in a way, because introduce this consortium coin community of Qubic. QUBIC. Let's go to this, bring up their website. Actually, we'll start with their blog post that they posted about it. So Qubic, let's just see. They have their own token, of course, as anyone does. But what they are trying to do is, instead of just doing wasteful mining, in other words, having processors solve just useless puzzles to mine, doing useful proof of work. In other words, what they're trying to do is sell their processing power of their network to people building AI networks, large language models, and things like that. So they're trying to be useful. But what's happened, though, is Monero has had a couple of tokens that have noticed, like Terry was one a couple months ago, that have allowed for merge mining. In other words, if you're not directly using your processing power to do the thing that you're supposed to, you should be doing for productivity, like AI or mining and other cryptocurrency, you can also mine Monero at the same time. And that sounds like a great idea. It's like, oh, I can do two things at once. Well, that's great until you start bringing in the economic incentive of mining two tokens. And then what Qubic wanted to do was they wanted to say, to boost their own token, the price of their own token, was they were going to take the rewards of Monero and use that to buy Qubic tokens and then burn it. In other words, create deflation. And so what did that do for them? Well, this all started kind of rumbling back in June of this year. And what they were trying to do was, about June, they started talking about doing this. They noticed that they could start using their mining, the power of their network to merge mine. And then with economic incentives, they could try to do a 51% takeover of Monero. Now, why is that a problem? Well, if you control 51% of the network, you can control the blockchain. You can basically do all kinds of bad things. You could introduce a totally new code base to it. You could change the rules for the whole thing. You could do double spending. It's very, very bad for people that want to stay on the existing chain. But that's what they were going to try to do. And they said they were doing it as more of an advertisement. And I kind of believe it. I think that this is more of just kind of an advertisement of their network. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that a little bit more. So what happened was they started talking about this in July, and they started trying it. It kind of came to a head on July the 19th. This is the price of their coin. Remember, they're trying to drive the price up through deflationary pressures. But the talk of it, the emotions, that's going to be enough oftentimes to drive up the actual value of the token. And by the way, I freaking hate crypto with so many zero decimal places. Like here on TradingView, they even have to go down to the exponential, like the E-5, to denote the price of it. That's just, but nevertheless, I'm actually, by doing this research, getting kind of interested in this because of what they're trying to do. Trying to use this, and they're going to. I mean, AI is kind of all the rage right now, but being able to sell processing power or do AI processing power. I mean, all these tech companies, Microsoft, Tesla, Nvidia, everything AI. Some of it's kind of bubbly and frothy, but we've recognized that AI-based processing power is, I wouldn't just say the future. I would say this is the now of technology, basically. Because I use Grok a lot myself to, kind of put together everything so that I could, let people know. So it's not just about making cat videos, basically, but a lot about making cat videos. And so they were able to pump their price up. But you notice where Monero had its, big day of, where it fell because they were trying to do the final takeover, trying to get to 51%. They didn't really succeed in driving the price up. And that creates a sort of a game of chicken because they have to pay their miners. They have to make this economically viable for them because they're using electricity costs. And so they didn't really succeed in doing that when they were doing their takeover. But how far did they get? Well, there's a couple of things that happened. So their CEO, leader, whatever he is, come from beyond. He bragged in a Twitter post yesterday while this was going on that Qubic is upgrading Monero blockchain to a DAG. Now, by the way, Qubic is a DAG. What is a DAG? Let me see if I can explain this. A blockchain is a sequential chain, linear of transactions that have been added to the blockchain. But a DAG, I guess it's distributed. So it's more like a graph, and so you can kind of fork into different blocks. And how this is different is it's a little more versatile. It's faster, but it requires like a network of trust. Okay, because you have to reference all these different blocks where transactions might be, rather than it being a chain. And so he's joking about this because what they were doing was, and by the way, how close did they get to it? Well, they claim to have achieved 50% and held it for a while, but I don't know if that's actually true. Because what ended up happening was they bragged about 37% during the time of the last 100 Monero blocks. This was yesterday, about around noon when they were doing it. They were mined by unknown. That's they claimed that was them. So what does this imply? It implies that they got around 40% of the network during this time. Now, over the course of this, I don't, if you're an old fag like me from 4chan, you don't mess with hackers. And so what people were doing that had more vested interest in Monero were doing DDoS attacks on Qubic throughout this whole time. But they were able to swat them off a little bit, and achieve this. But there's a little bit of a propaganda war going on here in both what they say and what they were able to achieve. But they were able to create orphan blocks. And what that means is they were able to do a thing called selfish mining. And so what they would do is, imagine you're doing this, you're solving for these blocks, and you find a block, you win the puzzle of the mining, but you don't tell the rest of the network. And then you keep on mining on your block without going out to the network and being a good guy and say, hey guys, I found it. Here's the chain we're going to be on. Instead, everyone else is working on their own chain. But then what happens is, because they have solved this, the longest blockchain wins. And so when they find out, like, okay, we didn't win the next block, their chain wins, meaning that all the processing that was done by the rest of the network is wasted, and it gets thrown away. Now, that doesn't mean transactions get lost. It just means that those transactions don't get finally processed, and they have to be processed again. Now, that means what you should always do is wait for about 12 to 13 confirmations on Monero to be sure that your transaction went through, so that nobody kind of fools you. But I made some transactions during this whole time, just kind of been testing. I was following this closely, and everything seemed to be going okay as far as moving things around. So nothing was really damaged in the network itself. But then I guess the question for me as a trader that you guys might be asking, I said this on Discord at the time, sent some DMs to friends that have been pinging me on it, was 250. Now, why 250? There was talks by Come From Beyond that if they pushed the price below 250, they would stop. And then they had a poll on their Discord asking, hey, should we stop at 250? And then, of course, the people on there were like, no, let's just drive it to zero. But they didn't do that. And so 250 kind of came, and I saw it, and I was like, that's a good, that's probably going to be the psychological level. And that is indeed the psychological level went to. And so it was a great opportunity, I think, to buy Monero, and I did. So we will see how that pans out if this was FUD. Now, I think overall this was a good thing, because it exposed the vulnerability in Monero. Now, there are a lot of ways that this can be addressed. And let me back up. So what did they actually achieve? Well, it has stopped, because, if you go back here and you look, they claim to be having 30% of the blocks attributed to unknown yesterday. Last 1,000 blocks, 26, now 19. So they definitely stopped trying. And also within this time period, people were coming on line, trying to compete against them. And so I don't think they achieved more than 50%. Um, but even if they did, it was just for a short amount of time. Remember, it's a game of chicken because they need to, pay for the electricity, pay for the mining. But they wanted to kind of do a proof of concept that they could possibly take it over. And so if it is a white hat sort of thing, then that does expose, some vulnerabilities in Monero. And I looked at some ideas of what might happen as a result of this. I think that obviously this merge mining, the ability to merge mine Monero with other things is probably the biggest single vulnerability. And I think that it's probably going to require a hard fork to uh, to remove that ability. First, it sounds like a great idea. You can make Monero while you're doing other useful proof of work activities. But yeah, you can't do that if people are able to do this as an economic incentive. In other words, if you're able to do another economic activity that can pay for the electricity of you doing this, while you're also getting the economic benefit of mining Monero, uh, yeah, I mean, the whole reason Bitcoin's been around a long time and it's been so successful, the reason any cryptocurrency has been successful is because there's economic incentives. And we humans, we like money. We like to make money. And if you give us ways to make money, we're going to do it. And we're going to try to make as much as we can. And so you have to work within that framework to incentivize people to do things. You have to pay people for work. And if you pay people for work, they'll do the work. And it's really just that simple. So um, I think that there's probably going to be some development going on in Monero to kind of address this a little bit. But overall, I'm going to see this as a good thing. And it's interesting to watch FUD as it transpires, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and what that means to the network. So again, uh, still private money, still works fine, and it has been tested and passed the test. Now we'll see what the developers do. So that's kind of the quick and dirty recap. And Qubic is putting crypto back in the hands of builders. Welcome back. Hey, thank you. Yeah, and let me just say, like, I'm not going to be mad at people trying to do this to my favorite cryptocurrency because I want it to be as resilient, robust, and anti-fragile if possible. But now Qubic is on my radar as a cryptocurrency that has the ability to, well, let's just say, I mean, they're doing something that has some real world application. That's what I don't know if it's cryptocurrency is necessarily guaranteed synergy with AI processing or AI building. Was it something artificial intelligence networks? What is that? AGI? Is it general intelligence? AGI? There's AGI, LLMs, whatever. For all these years, crypto has been a solution to a problem we don't quite know. What's a better way to put it? It's a solution to a problem that hasn't been identified yet. And we know it's a thing. We know it does stuff. We know it does something, but it hasn't really kind of like totally solved a niche entirely, a purpose entirely. Like, for instance, email. Email is something that means we don't have to write letters and send them at the cost of a postage stamp and wait for somebody to receive them and then reply back. So email, instantaneous letters being sent, that is a solution to a problem that email solved. Internet, yay for internet. E-commerce, Amazon, being able to look at a catalog online. And so blockchain has tried, initially, it has tried to replace money. And some would argue that it has. Some would argue that it's going to. I would argue that in the time that it's been around, Venmo and Zelle and Cash App and everything else have kind of come in and taken that use case and done it a lot better. Maybe now it's taking over gold. Maybe that's another thing to look at. We got to look at gold today because gold's doing some things as well. But yeah, Hopefully that answers people's questions about what happened exactly with Monero. If you weren't watching, I was of course watching it pretty closely. Uh, Anytime you see something like that happen, I think it was down 12% on the day. You're gonna think, this is a significant event. But I remember that whole 250 number they talked about where they would stop, and that ended up being the rallying cry. Now, where would I have liked to see? I am cool with Monero coming all the way back down to a volume profile level of 219, that prior range. But you got to understand that my assessment of Monero for the last many years that I've been talking about it and really interested and yes, bullish, but I don't think the point of it is to be bullish and go moon. I think the purpose is to have private money, a store of wealth that no one can see. Is that because money, good money holds its value. It has stable value. Okay. A lot of people think that, oh, I want my money to go up so I can just sit and do nothing and I'll just be able to buy more stuff later. That's Bitcoin. But for the most part, Monero has existed in ranges. By the way, this big drop here on Monero was the last time Monero was dead because it was delisted from exchanges and it got down all the way to 100. People thought that, oh, because if people can't speculate on cryptocurrency, it's not going to have any value. Well, the value of Monero is privacy. And from there, it established another range afterwards, up to about the 190, and then another range. And then we had a alleged hack. Somebody broke into somebody's Coinbase account, allegedly stole about $300 million worth of Bitcoin. And I think people have realized now with the Silk Road hackers and the Bitfinex hackers all being caught that if you have illicitly gotten Bitcoin, you're not going to keep your freedom very long. And so you got to find some way to anonymize that Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, for all its properties of being money, it's not exactly fungible because every single little Satoshi has a history. And so you can always go back and trace that entire history. But yeah, so that's what was attributed this big yeet from about 190 up to 400. And so what I've been looking for since here, and a lot of people ask me when I did a live stream here about, oh, what do you think it's going to go to? Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You're not going to get rich on Monero. Okay. All I want Monero to do is be private and, well, more or less retain its value over time. Okay. And so what I want to see happen now is if this is going to be the establishment of a new range going out for the next several months until some other event happens that maybe create another big hack or something like that might pump it up, but you can't bet on that. And so I want to see it if this is the establishment of the range and what is the fair value of it, and then understand that fair value goes up over time. So we shall see. Be humble. Be humble. All right. So what's going on in the Bitcoin space? Well, I saw this guy. I don't know how popular this guy is. Obviously, he's going to be pretty hated by the Bitcoin community, but it came up on my feed. This guy Vlad hosts the best podcast in Bitcoin. He's kind of losing a little bit of his, I think, his love for Bitcoin, but that's still his Twitter handle. But yeah, like he made all these bullet points about the current state of Bitcoin maximalist, and I can't help but agree with every single one. My issue with Bitcoin now is really not with the coin itself, but with the culture. How it's become all about, first of all, when they started trying to get taxpayers to buy Bitcoin, me as a libertarian, I'm out. I'm just not interested in, I'm not interested in that. And does that mean that I'm going to miss out on some gains? Okay. I just can't believe in it, because what's happened now, especially with this part, and I have a big beef with MicroStrategy and Sailor, is now they're all worshiping Sailor because he's pumping their bags, not because he's doing anything to make Bitcoin money. In fact, it's absolutely the opposite. Like you can't, people aren't going to spend something they think is going to be worth more later. I mean, one of the things that's been good happening right now is that the volatility of Bitcoin has slowed down. Maybe people will spend some if they know what the value is going to be. Now that basically the appreciation of Bitcoin has has slowed. Instead of being a exponential curve up, it's basically an exponential curve off into slow growth instead of yeeting. But you still got your people out there that want it to yeet because they want money now, wealth now. But it's just so icky. It's just so gross. It's so gross that, we had this great thing, Bitcoin, that was given to us, that we could have made into, private money. We could have made this into sovereign money. Couldn't be censored. Of course, it can't be censored now, but if you use it and they know who you are and they don't want you to, well, you can lose your freedom. So that kind of defeats the whole purpose. But there's a limited supply. It is backed up by a very much stronger network because there's more money to be made in mining than Monero, as we're talking about before. So it's going to be robust. It's going to be around for a long time. And yeah, it's also going to be a lot better than inflating fiat. So these are all things that are true. But there's actually something interesting that happened this week, was announced after, I think it was after their earnings. So one of the reasons that Bitcoin has been going up so much is because every few weeks you see MicroStrategy spending a few $1 billion buying Bitcoin. And they recently, just yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, they just announced officially that their guidance that they're going to stop diluting their shares, at least below a certain threshold of MNAV. So this thing they've been doing for like the last, was it 1 to 2 years, where they basically create more shares, dilute their shareholder equity, to then take that cash and buy Bitcoin. They're going to put limits on that. In other words, they're going to not do that as long as they're below 2.5 of MNAV, which is their, I guess, I don't know what the M stands for, but it's net asset value. It's basically the holdings of their Bitcoin. Okay. Now, if you look at what their MNAV is or has been, that chart doesn't help us very much. Yeah. So right now, it kind of capped out at 2.42 last year in September, and it's diminished down to about 1.69. So in other words, each MicroStrategy share represents an ownership of a multiple. How do I say this? So let's say you got $100 worth of Bitcoin, okay, or they own $100 worth of Bitcoin, but the share price of MicroStrategy is 1.69 of that. So $169 that MicroStrategy buys you $100 worth of Bitcoin that they hold. So you have a premium there. You're overpaying for your Bitcoin that you own. You don't own it. Defeats the whole damn purpose of Bitcoin, because you're not even owning the Bitcoin in a custodial account. You're basically owning the Bitcoin and giving custody and ownership to somebody else. Why this is a great idea, I don't freaking know, but I think everyone's, it pumps everyone's bags. That's why people like it. So they want to support this. Okay. All kinds of different little financial things that Saylor has come up with, and MicroStrategy has come up with. But we'll see that. But basically what they said in that announcement yesterday, if they're not going to do more share dilutions, is unless it goes over 2.5. All right. Now they were very optimistic. They said like, well, if it's 2.5 to 4, we'll do opportunistic dilution. If it's 4, we'll just aggressively. So they're saying that, oh, we'll eventually get back up to 4 MNAV. I'm humble. I say maybe. I'm a we'll see Chad. But that's not what I'm betting on. At some point, just the rules of finance are going to come catch up with them. That you can't go around as a acknowledged fraudster, tax cheat, and a person dazzling them with bullshit. This isn't going to last forever. It's not. And one of the things that I noted this week, as I'm sitting there, day trading, looking at, multiple charts at once, is I think I posted, where's my post on this? And a lot of people criticize this and they say, oh, we just look at the 1 minute, bro, zoom out. Well, no, I don't need to fucking zoom out. Because that's not the point that I'm making. So this is a chart. On the top is the S&P 500 futures, and on the bottom is the US dollar. And this is over the course of a trading day earlier this week, the 5th, which was, yeah, Tuesday. They move in lockstep during the US trading hours. It's because they're both risk assets. They're both speculative assets, and they are both stocks and Bitcoin benefiting from this risk on atmosphere that we have. Someone asked me today, what do you think the stock market is going to do? And honestly, I think you're just going to see a uh, a slow appreciation of speculative assets, or just any assets for that matter, just like you normally see most years as it comes along. We had our big flush back in April. I mean, you need that flush to get people scared, to give you a good dip, a little buy opportunity, wash out people, and then you're going to go up, and everyone's going to be chasing. That's just how the market psychology works. Okay. And of course, when I bring this up, people are like, "Oh, this is a short term. When Bitcoin becomes money, everything's going to change." Okay, bro. All right. Well, we'll evaluate that when that happens. But right now, when I look at Bitcoin, and we just compare that to, let's say, a correlation. Now, by the way, the correlation coefficient measures how much something moves in step with each other. It does measure magnitude to an extent, but not in the sense that, you're going to have, if you have like a 20% versus 3% move, it's going to change it. It's going to really say, given a month over time, how much do these move together? And so if we do that for the SPX, SP 500, and Bitcoin, if you look down here at the bottom, there's the correlation coefficient. If it's 0, it's totally uncorrelated. If it's -1, it is totally inversely correlated. If it is +1, then it is very correlated, or it's perfectly correlated. In other words, if you did SPY and SPX, being that they're the same instrument, you would see that they are different. Well, they're not quite the same instrument, because SPX, I think, gives you dividends a little bit different. But if we did like NASDAQ, like QQQ, again, they're stocks. They're very, very correlated. Essentially, correlation coefficient between QQQ and SPX is 86 right now. And then if we do Bitcoin, the correlation coefficient is 87. Very, very highly correlated. And so it's not quite the same thing to own stocks as it is to own Bitcoin. That much is obvious. But it is kind of the same thing. In other words, if you're long Bitcoin and you're long stocks, you're not diversified. One day that will be different. One day maybe, but not right now. And so my first and primary thesis right now, if you had to ask me, what do you think the market is going to do? Well, there's an old saying that bull markets are grown on pessimism, or excuse me, born on pessimism, grow on skepticism, mature on optimism, and die in euphoria. And we look at the S&P 500, the stock market, risk assets as a metric, nice, solid all-time high break, and then good, solid weeks of upward progress. In my experience doing this for well over a decade, this is a kind of situation after a big flush, after a confirmed all-time high break, you just get more of that to just grind up. And there's no like wars anymore going on, at least not in the forefront. There's there's wars going on, but there's nothing. People aren't captured by any kind of fearful emotion. What I notice is people being skeptical, like, "Oh, tariffs are still out there. Oh, you don't know what Trump's going to do." Yeah, yeah, that means market going to go up, and that also means that Bitcoin is going to go up, because we are in risk on. There's talk if they're going to lower interest rates. If they do, it's only going to be by a quarter of a point. I don't think it matters. I really don't. I don't think it's, I mean, it's going to be used and digested by price as bullish. You might even get a little bearish movement if it doesn't happen. But if it stays the same or goes up, same thing, slow grinding appreciation. So what happens when you don't have any major catalysts going on? So whoever mentioned Ethereum last time, and that was bullish on the logarithmic scale, I moved my liquid ICP into ETH when okay. Well, Ethereum has been doing very well. I need to note that. By the way, we're getting into, well, I've been talking for a while. If you got symbols to look at, we'll look at them. But I've got a lot to catch up on, actually. So we're going to be here for a minute. A lot of things are at levels that I think are opportunities. It's really damn impossible for me to buy something like Ethereum here because it's at a major high. Basically, the highs of 2024 and basically the highs of 2024 are 4,091 on Ethereum, which you're up at right now. If we get a week close above that, then you can go up to test the next all-time high. But I need a big weekly close above there. I like to buy stuff when it's dead, though. I really do. I like to buy stuff when everybody thinks that this thing is dead. That's when you get some really good opportunities. So yeah. Oh, did you guys make money off each other? Well, that's good. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. What is the little crown? Top fans. Oh, what is this? Did I implement this top fan thing, or is this just like something they put in there? Interesting. I need to look up in that. That's new that you guys get crowns in here. So this is also the 50% retracement from the low of 27 to the all-time high volume profile from January 20 to today. Gets close to the 50% mention. Is this on Ethereum that you're talking about? Or Solana? Solana is another thing I'm looking at, but again, it's I can only trade opportunities, and Solana's bouncing around as 50% at 151. What is the volume profile of that level? Now, let me I want to see an opportunity. Like, if you go back and look at Ethereum, now I've been shorting Ethereum, I admit. I took a short and it did not go well when I shorted it at 27. Gave me a little bit of, but no. Bull market stopped me out. That's fine. You guys get to win. But where you'd want to buy, or where I want to buy, is where it came back down to the volume profile level at 1566 down here. That's a good place, especially when you have a price action like this, where it sort of comes down. Here's a weekly bar that comes down below it, closes up. That's really good stuff. So kind of lock this in your mind for the next time something like this happens. When you get to a major volume profile level, when everyone thinks it's dead, including me, and it holds it. I mean, that if you look back, I know in hindsight and see respect like that, it's like obviously everything's obvious in hindsight. But I'm telling you, volume profile is like a cheat code. I talk about this on live streams all the time because the stocks that I've been playing this year, like Whirlpool, which it went up. Basically, Whirlpool has been one of the coolest because Whirlpool was the one that a viewer actually put on my radar. Oh, I'm getting some lag. I think I'm getting some lag. Or TradingView's lagging. Am I lagging or is it TradingView? No, she's TradingView. Okay. Come on, TradingView. Okay, maybe we do the monthly. Whirlpool had a volume profile at 75.76. This was the one that I said like 2 years ago. TradingView, what are you doing? Anyway, it also came up to I can just draw it. I'll just do it live. It also came up to a volume profile of the leg down. Come on, show me. Okay. Anyway, Hershey's, come on, Hershey's. Okay, Hershey's came to a volume profile level. Again, these are like going back to 2020, 2021. The Whirlpool one goes back to 2008. Long-term volume profile levels. Those are good opportunities, especially when you see like, even if it spikes below it, when you have like a respect like this right here, where it shoots below it. I love these low sweeps. I love spikes. That's what I've based a lot of my trading on, is when everyone else is getting stopped out, then I want to get in, basically. So AVWAP and VWAP is better cheat code than VRRP, Jeremiah. You need to tell me what those things are. And you got to tell me in a way that's going to be convincing, because I've had really good success just drawing it manually from like major time eras and going from there. If you heard me a lot, I am very hesitant to add indicators. I've got my friends that, if you haven't noticed, have got me to start using um, 89 EMAs and volume wet ass pussy. Yeah, this isn't a kid's show. I had to turn that off so we could have chat. Trading View. Why do you vex me so? I've got 7,100 kbps. It's not my connection problem. It's a Trading View problem. Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the ones coming in, because dude, come on. Okay, it's Trading View. All right, let me restart Trading View. Let's try that. Is Robinhood actually getting good charts now? Okay. All right, we may be live now. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, Whirlpool is, yeah, there we go. So Whirlpool did so volume profile. If you take the whole shebang of volume profile from May of 2007, you can go back further if you want to, and through 2020, 75.53 was that level. And then if you do a volume profile of the leg down, 108.72 was the one that held it up. Now, Trader Me wanted to take some profit at this level right here, but I'm like, this is a dividend play. I'm just gonna kind of hold on to it. Of course, just come back, but it's just take in like how effective that has been. And this has been something since April, May that we've been looking at and talking about on stream as well. Hershey's is another one this year. This is one from back in the 2020s, candy company. And of course, what is it bouncing up against now? It's for the second time bouncing up against its volume profile here. Just such a cheat code. Such a cheat code. Let's see. Now, UNH is one that had a huge, massive sell-off, and I was a little hasty, got into it a little early in 290. Had to close that out when it dropped below at around 280, and then earnings tanked it down. And I was looking at this, I was like, okay, if I was patient, I could wait until about the actual volume profile level in UNH, which is 245. That's what it hit this week, which also ends up being, or last week, which also ends up being a low sweep. I like it when price dips down, makes everyone think that it's going to go below the low, and then now recaptures it. So this is a good sign so far for UNH here. SRPT, I don't really want to talk about that now. Oh, I don't like this at all, but I'm still in it. I gave myself a position size that was good for the risk I wanted to take on something that can move 30% in a damn day, down or up as it did, and I actually had like a 30% up move in a single day after like right here. Actually, I think I was a little too hasty there. I think I got it at the 17, and then it jumped up the next day to 22. Garbage stock. Yeah, it's good. Trim and let things be free. Absolutely. But anyway, Copart is one that another viewer sent to me to look at, and I did take a small position to start with because it hit the 45 right there. But it's got a lot of confluence here, and that's what I really like to see when you have a 50% matching up with a volume profile level. Or now I've started to appreciate the 200 EMA. That's you got all three down here on Copart, and these are the kind of things. Just as a framework, this is the kind of stuff that I want to buy. I want to buy stuff that is pulling back. I'm a contrarian. Okay, that's why I have a hard time getting down with all the Bitcoin maximalism now, because it just, even though they are the counterculture to normie fiat tradfi, within their space, they have a sort of orthodoxy that is just it's insufferable. But when and if something comes back to a major point, or has a major sell-off, then I get interested. I don't chase. Just to kind of bring this back to crypto. So now that my trading view is working, this kind of thing is what you want to see. And so where price comes down and it hits the volume profile level. Also, sometimes I get asked, or I ask myself, what is a very important volume profile level? Well, it's really kind of the mountain that's the most prominent. In other words, that would be one right there. And then if you were looking, well, where's the next one? It's the next prominent mountain right there if you want to be more patient. Okay. And so that's how I define it. And I use this in day trading on S&P 500 futures as well for anything, all the way down to a 1 minute up to a weekly or a monthly. And that's been one of my fundamental principles when doing TA based trading is whatever you're doing needs to work on every time frame. If you have something that just works on 15-minute, it's probably curve fit. So yeah. AWAP, VWAP is better cheat code than what, you know what, Jeremiah? If you can show me, let's see, where is this? Is it, oh, VWAP. Oh, volume weighted. Yeah. Volume weighted average price. Okay. WHR cut dividend. No. Did they? Maybe that's why they dropped so much. Oh, thanks for letting me know. See, that's the thing as a technical trader. Here I am saying, oh, is this dividend play? And then something like that changes and I don't catch it. That's why I have you, Coffee Guru. So let's see. Hold on. WHR dividend. Or what am I doing? Why am I just, bro, what am I doing? Why am I not just living in the current year? Now, Grok is a little slow, honestly, but it's a little more up to date with stuff that may come from Twitter, X, and social media. What did they cut it to? Did you buy Humana when social media was telling us that they're doomed from Medicaid cuts? I don't follow. I mean, you're trolling me because you know that I don't follow narratives. Narratives, I think, just distract. Whenever people were talking, oh, while Elon's thinking for me, another one user submitted was LLY, and of course it's came down. And I was watching. They told me about it, I think on Wednesday or yesterday, when it's dropping on earnings. Now apparently there was some drug trial that didn't work. Blah blah blah. I don't know. I don't follow that kind of stuff. I'm looking at the levels, and so 640.87 was what I was looking at for this thing to either hold or break, and it has broken it, and then it has closed below it. So now I'm looking down around the other confluence area, which is going to be about 593. That's the next level that I want to try to pick this up. Now, by the way, I'm talking my book here because I've owned LLY since I first started trading. I mean, I've got this in one of my long-term accounts where I don't look at it. And so I've had LLY as a stock since like 2011, 12, those kind of years, basically 13. And so it's just now, so it's up a lot. And by the way, this is as I was talking to some of those one of my Discord peeps earlier today. Like, coming from I'm not old, I'm not super old. I've only got a few gray hairs, but like I've learned in my like 20 couple years adulting to own assets, like buy stocks in some account, like have your play account, but then have your long-term account, and then don't look at the long-term account. Bitcoin too, if you prefer. But do your stuff that keeps you busy with a small little bit of your money, but then also make sure that most of your money is in an account where you don't mess with it and you just own things. Now, keep an eye on it if something goes really stupid. Like for instance, in one of my accounts, this is a reminder to myself not to do this. I had bought PayPal at 196. And I forgot about it for about, I don't know, long enough for it to come down in this area right here to where I was finally like, oh, now I'm bag holding a shit coin. What do I do? Well, I don't worry about that so much. I just want to go ahead and cut it because that capital could be used better elsewhere. And now looking at it, yeah, going forward, I think people have asked me to look at it here. Um, where I would buy it. Nah, no. So again, did I miss anything? No, I did better getting rid of my bag hold and moving it to something else. Counterpoint, Palantir, pouring out for my friend Amateur that got me in this stock. Palantir I've owned since $9. Now, before you go thinking that I'm some kind of guru, understand that that $9 was about here back in 2022. And so I had to sit in this thing all the way down to 6, but I only had 200 shares. So I didn't care as much. Again, that long-term portfolio thing. So yeah, there's really no single answer. But own assets. Own assets. And then like just don't and like just don't sell them. Just don't sell them unless you absolutely have to. It's kind of that simple. It's kind of that simple. All right. So Whirlpool recently cut its quarterly dividend to 90 cents per share, down from the previous amount of 175 per share. So now, okay. All right. So that's why it went down. Challenges from tariffs. Here's the thing though. When I bought Whirlpool, I asked AI, out of all the companies they compete with, which one is the best insulated against tariffs? Which one has done the most onshoring of their manufacturing? And it was Whirlpool. I think they're lying. Well, they're not lying, but this is the kind of thing that companies will do to basically get guidance in line or expectations in line, is they'll say, oh, we're having tariff problems. It's a really good excuse to do what they want to do, which is probably cut dividends so they can have more money to invest in projects. Now, there's competing theories about dividends. People think that dividends should be reinvested in companies for growth. That's why you don't get dividends in tech companies. They're all about growth. So I'm not going to be mad. Let's see. What is the div yield? I know I spelled that wrong. If the share price is, let's see, 85. And give me a quick answer. So it was 8%. So down there where I got Whirlpool at 76, 75, it was at like an 8 and some change dividend yield. So now we're at a 4.24%. Essentially, they just brought it in line with the money market account. Okay. All right. Fun fact, you can take $1,000 and 2x 10 trades and you will have $1 million. Do you know what I can do that with? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Look, every financial advisor person gives you the cheapest advice because it's the most correct and it's the lowest risk to give you, which is, put your money in assets and leave them there. And compounding interest. But the problem is these things are slow. They're very, very slow. But that's fine, especially if you own Kroger. So what Kroger again? All right, we're coming to the end. Let me go through all the symbols you guys want to look at. But of course, Kroger's one of my favorites. Jen's favorites too. So we got a nice weekly close. It's been false breakouting these highs, but you know what? This is an account I don't care about. This is a grocery store. What was that other one? Motorola. MSI. They're not doing anything with AI, but this has been like a huge sleeper winner. These are the kind of stocks I like, by the way. Stuff that people don't talk about. What's Costco doing? Grinding up. Costco for me was a 2021 buy when everyone was talking about hyperinflation, Zimbabwe, Weimar Republic. And I was like, okay, what companies are going to be able to benefit from inflation? And I thought, well, if inflation really starts hitting consumers, they're going to shop more in bulk. Where are they going to shop in bulk? Costco. And that basic thesis, you know what? Oftentimes, when it comes to theses, you can be right for the wrong reasons or wrong for the right reasons. Uh, at the end of the day, guys, they can just keep printing money and it keeps going into assets, own assets. All right, let's see. What else? Mondelez has done a little pullback here. That's another volume profile from earlier in the year. MicroStrategy is going to zero. It's just taking a while to get there. Tesla's doing a thing that I don't really care about, but I can't help but not notice that it's doing a wedge of price. I do not trade wedges. I hate diagonal lines. I hate diagonal lines because you're always kind of like, oh, ooh, is that the low to use? Or is that the low to use? Or is that the low to use and it just did a breakout? Well, I hate it. I hate it because it's not objective like flat lines. But price does do this thing where it just kind of comes to a point, and from that point, you typically do have an explosion. You just don't know what direction, and sometimes there's a fake out, but just kind of noting that, Tesla's been kind of sleeping a little bit. Do you remember when everyone was talking about how there was so much volatility in Tesla from Elon, and people attacking cars and stuff? I actually have a friend of mine who just bought a Cybertruck, and he's kept a count. He said, I've only gotten 2 middle fingers in the last few weeks of owning it. And so he says he smiles every time, but he enjoys getting middle fingers. So people still don't like Cybertrucks, but I told him that's probably because it was a trash can on 4 wheels. People could just think it's ugly and an eyesore. Man, I wish they'd really I wish that Tesla would just buy Rivian. And that maybe that happens. I don't know. But I think Rivian, I read something, they're losing about $40,000 for every car they sell. I really wish Rivian would. I want a truck with a normal looking truck. Like if I could have a Ford F-150 that drove itself, I would totally buy it. Well, I mean, I would put a price on it, but I would just shut up and take my money for a Ford F1. Now, Ford does have some self-driving, but they nag you. No, I mean a truck that I can play video games on my laptop and watch TV, and you don't bother me because you don't need to, because you drive itself, just like cars can nowadays. Don't be scared. They're going to be better drivers than humans. They already are. All right. Let's see. Intel hanging out at this volume profile level of 20. Don't know what to say about that. Agilent, that's a more recent 30-minute spike opportunity. It came up. I trimmed it at 120, and it's kind of hanging out. I like this one as a buy because it has, in the long term, came down to a volume profile level, big low back in April, and it's making its way up. So Agilent, Copart, small position, looking for it maybe to come back out a little bit more. And LLY, I'm looking over the next week or two to come down to 593. All right, so let's see. What are the ones we've got here? mRNA. Let's look at symbols, and then I'll let you guys go for the weekend. mRNA. Moderna. Oh, this is a dead stock. Interesting. Why is this so dead? I don't like narratives. Don't answer me. Well, if I'm gonna, I need it to be deader. It needs to be more dead. I mean, really got to go all the way back to, is that the right thing? mRNA. Yeah, NASDAQ, Moderna. Okay. So going all the way back, is that its IPO? Let's see, hang on. When did mRNA IPO? Yeah, 2018. Okay, so you got to go all the way back to the IPO. And then you have the major volume profile level, perhaps this one at 28. 19. That's a good call. That's a good thing. Here, look, I shouldn't question that. I should not question that at all. I should not question, oh, it can't get more dead. No, it definitely can get more dead. Do all my alerts and Thinkorswim, by the way. Yeah, so let's get mRNA deader. All right. What else? Solana. Oh, I think I did cover Solana. Um, I need something more. I need something a lot more. Mm, like, mm. Eh, It's interesting that it came and it touched on the weekly, the 200 week moving exponential moving average, but it only when it first started drawing it back here in April. So, not enough weeks in Solana's history to fully draw that out. So it's kind of funny. Let's see. I don't know. Okay, what laser? What else we got? I think that's all the symbols to look at actually. So I mean, there's nothing to go on here. Good luck with that. I don't do. Isn't it true you don't even know what they do? And Roblox. There's some stuff like I mean, I'm not opposed to like Roblox. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna buy this. I don't chase stuff. But yeah, AEO, sure. Got anything? Put it, get it in. I'm about to American Eagle. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. Of course. Of course. Of course. Now this is oh yeah. Oh, where is that? Oh no, no, that's yep, 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 yep. So let's well now we gotta go back and we gotta look at it essentially. Uh did this respect a volume profile level? Going all the way back. So there's a very prominent one right there. That's to the low. And then that one would be the next one. Those would be the two that I would really consider. But there is that smaller one right there. I don't know. But let's see what neither it's just not really giving you much of an opportunity there, is it? So I don't know. I think people have been talking about the stock has been going on like a huge run, but I mean, yeah, maybe like in context of the last eh eh I mean, if you look at the character of it, it's very sinusoidal. So maybe at least it's nice to look at now. Yes. Yes, yes it is. All right. Fig. Okay, where would I buy this at? Let's see. It hasn't done super bully things yet, but if it came back to 11, I might trade it. But yeah, it's broken out on the daily. Ichimoku is telling us this thing's bullish. Yeah, 1162 is a volume profile level. Yeah, let's if it gets back to 1150. I think that would be pretty good actually. I could put some risk on that actually. Fig. Figma. Figma balls. What is Fig? Why is this the second time I've heard about this today? What do they do? The problem with these kind of things is I need some past price action to go on. And lacking that when it comes to like an IPO like this, which I think it was just launched last month. Is this that IPO that you were doing? Oh, no, I'm not an AEO. What do you mean? Is it not showing correctly? No, I'm on that. Oh, it is now? Was it being slow? Oh, fig. Okay. Um, so this kind of breaches into the territory of IPOs. And I mean, I did this earlier today. We were talking about IPOs, and I made the statement, which was wrong, that if you buy 10 different IPOs, 9 of them are going to lose you money. Now, that's wrong. The actual statistics are 2/3 of IPOs underperform 3 years after going public. About 29% outperform, and only 29% of them outperform the market. So it's probably, if you did a bell curve, it's a distribution. Yeah. So no, that's not it at all. So third. Sorry, it's not bell curve distribution. So yeah, if you buy 10 IPOs, 3 of them are going to make you money. And back in 2021, and here's how you know when the market's really bullish: when they start doing a lot of IPOs. Do you guys remember back? Are we old enough to remember back in 2021 when everything was going public? You had SPACs and everything. There's a reason they did that. Is because the wise, sagely people at all the big institutions up in New York knew, hey, this is a very bullish market. We need to take advantage of all this retail FOMO and cash out of our venture capital, because everybody will buy anything right now. And that was 2021. And then what happened the year after that? But when you see a bunch of IPOs, know that the market is bullish and that is identified. You didn't have people announcing IPOs in 2022, did you? No, because nobody were buying, because everyone was risk off. So now that we're in this risk on time, where everything's going up, stocks, crypto, everything, now you're seeing IPOs launch. Why? Because people have an appetite for risk. Should they? Well, that's a personal decision. Yeah. So this was this is a few days ago. Okay. Well, let's talk about how I used to, back in 2021, everyone was asking about IPOs. It was just very simple. Any given IPO, you're going to have this initial up. Wait, I think, Jen, the reason we talked about this was because you got into Figma, or did you not get into Figma before the IPO? Wasn't it Robinhood offered it to you at okay, but that you could have bought it for $30, right? Wasn't it like that? Something like that? Okay. I mean, maybe it's actually kind of interesting that Robinhood is offering that as a service, that you can buy IPOs before they actually IPO. There's maybe some validity in that. But interestingly enough, then, I think you have to incorporate that into the analysis of an IPO. What I used to say when it was big, all the rage, was take that high that it makes the day or two after IPO, or whenever it is, within the week of it, and then that's going to be your point to break. And people are like, oh no, you mean if it comes down here, I shouldn't buy it at 90? I'm going to miss out on it doubling my money up here. Well, no, more likely what's going to happen is you're going to not miss out, but you're going to avoid losing 14, 15, 20, 50%. And the example I use for why this is okay, why you can do this, why you can be patient, is if you go back and you look at Facebook, Meta. Facebook, when it IPO'd at 42, and that's been splits, obviously, maybe. But it IPO'd at $42. And then over the course of the next year, it went down 58%. If you had waited until it went past its all-time high, you got yourself a nice little confirming break. You even got yourself a little retest of that level, okay, at 45, okay? But I missed out. On those. Okay, well, you missed out on that, but if you had owned assets, as I'm trying to tell people to do, all the way from there, now you're up still 1,600%, okay? But if you bought it down there, you'd be up, you would be up about double still. But remember, only a third of them are going to do this. See, math is cool. It's some people might even call this gambling. I don't. I call it speculation, because if you go to Vegas, you're going to lose. Here, you actually have a chance. But yeah, don't lose money. That's the important point. Okay. Let's see what else. TTD. And then I think that's going to be it. Trade desk. Ooh, that's a big dead. Okay. Did we drop down to a volume profile level, or where is our volume profile floor? That was down there, but I think more likely here. That's basically the last leg before it goes into that. So 45.98. See if this earnings drop can bring it down to 45.98 for you. You can catch it on that floor right there. That would be what I would look at there. But this is a very crazy stock. I don't like that. That's the kind of stuff that SRPT does, where you have an earnings announcement that makes it drop 27%, and then this earnings announcement made it drop 37%. I just don't like stocks like this. I'm too old, I guess. UNH. Talked about UNH in the beginning. I am once again bullish on it, as long as it the patience level was 250. Excuse me, 245. The drop level was, of course, the 50% retracement level, which was based on, let's go to the week. Let's go to the monthly. So going all the way back to 2008 low to the high, that was, of course, 322. But look, this is a little kind of an example for you. Notice how it broke below it and closed below that level. Came back up and gave you a retest. Not good. But then you actually came down to the volume profile level, which is now what I put some risk on, 245, because it's a nice little sweep of that low, really scare people, make it think it's going lower. But then we were able to actually recapture this week. We're going to hodl, going to diamond hands it from here, but keep an eye on it, okay? This kind of is related to what's going on with LLY, where you have this week close below the 50%. That means it's probably going to go down to the next level support. And that's why with LLY, I'm looking more at 593. So yeah. Definitely those are ones to watch. I mean, these are the kind of things that I like to buy. I like to buy stuff where everyone thinks that the company's going out of business. It's not. Well, there's a very low probability. Okay. All right. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you guys have a good weekend. I will be back next week for sure. I'm not traveling. So, yeah, we'll see. Oh, one more. NVO in the Valley of Risk. For those that don't know, the Valley of Risk is whenever something breaks its 50% level like this. In other words, I'm always looking at, that 50% level or a volume profile level for it to hold. And then you notice where if you would have bought it at its 50% level back in January of this year, okay, and then it broke below it, you got to stop yourself out, because otherwise you end up here. And the Valley of Risk is essentially that period where you're bag holding and you don't know what to do because it's broken your level that you bought it at. You even had a nice little retest of it here. But yeah, where's this thing going? Novo Nordisk. Look, okay, so Moderna and Novo Nordisk is a pharmaceutical company, right? Yes, it is, isn't it? I have a point here. It's going to be very important. No, what does Novo Nordisk do? Normally, I don't care what a stock does. Only the price action. I don't care what the company does. So Novo Nordisk is a global healthcare company based in Denmark that specializes in diabetes care, obesity care, rare blood disorders, hormone replacement therapies. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. Who has all the money right now? Like, not that answer. No, not that answer. No, I mean, like, what age group has all the money right now? It's the boomers, right? And they're getting kind of old. What do old people do? Like, everybody likes to be alive, right? I like living. Living is full of possibilities. Everyone wants to stay alive. It's just kind of like one of the basic, motivations of life. And so, but when people get older, it takes some doing. It takes some extra help to keep the body working. And so what do we need to do that? Well, we need to exercise, but many people don't. But we need to go see doctors, and we need healthcare. And what is healthcare doing? Hold on. Draw me a chart plot of health costs. Have healthcare costs been getting cheaper or more expensive? Obviously more expensive. And boomers, they have all this money, and they're going to want to keep themselves alive, aren't they? One of the, I would say, one of those things that's, every once in a while, in the market over the years, there's been one of these, oh, why didn't I think about this? Actually, it's a lot. You have these, why didn't I think about it theses, right? Where in hindsight, it was obvious. It seems obvious to me that boomers having all this money are going to start spending it on the rising cost of healthcare. Look at college. College tuition rates have increased at higher than the rate of inflation. Why? Because of massive subsidies and student loans. Because more money has been given. So what do these colleges do? Do they tighten their belts and become more efficient? Hell no. They hire more, administrators. They spend more on whatever they spend money on. If you supply and demand, there's a limited supply. Well, there's not a limited supply of universities out there, but there's money chasing after the same goods. And so there's going to be more and more money chasing after healthcare as the years go along, as the boomers age. And so it's almost like, is it not obvious that healthcare is going to be like one of the most profitable industries in the next 10 to 20 years? So why are all the healthcare companies going down? What always happens when, right before you go back and you look back in history at, oh, I don't know, Amazon, .com, like it's now Amazon is pretty obvious, isn't it? But, Amazon from its peak in 99 down to 2001 had a dip of 96%. It's had a couple of big, we had basically, I called it the trade of the century earlier this year, or excuse me, not this year. Time moves so fast. Back in 2022, where Amazon pulled back 50%. Did you think they were going to go out of business? NVIDIA, just a few short years ago, also, they're doing all the AI. NVIDIA pulled back 70% in 2022. Was the company going to go out of business? Stocks have ridiculous dips. It's just the way they do. So I'm known for I thought for the last couple of years, healthcare is a sector that I want to be pretty heavily weighted into as the years go along in the next 10 years. I can't help but think that with UNH and this and everything else, if these companies survive, which I'm pretty sure they're going to, are these not going to be the most valuable companies in the next decade? Is this not just a massive opportunity that we're getting here in just like the last year? All these healthcare companies. We know healthcare is going to be like this massive, profitable sector as these boomers age. And then just in the last year, we're getting these 60% pullbacks. Now, if you ask someone with a conspiracy theory hat on, they would say that Wall Street, maybe I should just say that because people love conspiracy theories. Wall Street will dump the price. They'll bring the price down so they can scoop it up cheap for themselves. Shake everybody out, make them get scared. Doesn't cost them anything. They're going to hold for long term. Is this not perhaps just a great opportunity to start loading up on healthcare? Rhetorical question, but I'm really thinking about it. But I'm going to use technicals. The very dead is all the way down here at 24. Yeah. I don't know. I might have to keep an eye on this and try to get, but I want to start picking up some healthcare companies. That seems really, really low here on this. The problem with volume profile, by the way, is it, as a function of math, because the price is lower, it does tend to lean more towards lower prices. So it's kind of hard right now on Novo Nordisk to see a really clear volume profile like I saw in Hershey's and Whirlpool and Mondelez and Dollar General this year. But I don't know. Generally speaking, though, a 60 to 7% pullback on something is one of those, okay, everybody's out that was scared. Now it can rip. We'll see. We'll see. Keep an eye on this one. Keep an eye on all healthcare. I can't help but think that this is going to be one of the things to own for the next 10 years. Just a question of, what companies or just all of them. That's where the boomers are going to spend their money. It's not like they're going to be able to sell their houses to Zoomers, are they? Zoomers don't have any money. All right. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Hope I gave you guys some good stuff to think about. Make sure that you like it so that people can join and share their symbols, like everyone did today. Join the Discord. Ping me there. That's where I post my thoughts on a regular basis. And you're free to send me a message, ask me questions too, because I love to teach. I love to talk about trading. So have a good weekend, everybody. Talk to you there.